American coffee is a dessert, diabetes in a cup. But coffee here in Scotland isn't really coffee at all. My name is Peter and I have a caffeine addiction. I mostly grew up in Oklahoma, but almost 6 years ago, I moved to Scotland. There are many amazing differences and benefits with living here compared to in the United States. And one of the big major culture shocks is the way that coffee is over here. It's not just the coffee terminology itself that's different over here, it's also how it's consumed. American coffee is oftentimes more like a dessert than like coffee. But coffee here in Scotland isn't coffee at all, it's espresso. Let me make some coffee and I'll elaborate. I'm not quite sure why I chose a heat wave to make a video about coffee, but to be fair, any time of year is a good time to drink coffee. Now, when Americans talk about coffee, they are talking about what people here would call filter coffee or drip coffee. Whereas people here, when they say coffee, they use it as kind of an umbrella term for espresso drinks. On top of that, Americans also have an infatuation with creamer. This is one of the things that I do and I don't miss about the US. America is kind of known for when you go to the shop, you've got entire aisles dedicated to different flavors and types of creamers. And that's why a lot of people, it's more of a dessert than a coffee. I feel like a lot of Americans either are on one extreme or the other. Either they drink it black or mostly black, or they drink it with all of the syrup and creamer in it to where it's just nothing like pure coffee. Here, if you go to the shop, you might get one or two different, you might get a couple of flavors of like coffee syrups, but creamer just doesn't exist. Even half and half doesn't exist here. I've never seen it. And it's one of those things which also maybe shows a bit how probably poor the food standards are in the US, but my coffee in the States pretty much always would be with a little bit of half and half and no sugar. If it's really good coffee, I'll drink it black. If it's terrible coffee, sometimes I might add a tiny bit of sugar in, but I like it with half and half. Here, it doesn't exist, and I tried to make it because in theory, it's half cream, half milk. But when you make it here, it tastes nothing like what you get in the States. It's nowhere near as good, which tells me that the half and half you get in the States is probably nothing but chemicals, but it tastes good. Another big difference is when you go to coffee shops here, they'll usually ask you if it's for here or to go. Here they'll say sitting in or taken away. In the States, they usually don't really ask you that. And especially, you know, maybe if you go to some of the smaller shops, it's different, but if you go to the big chains like Starbucks, they will, I'm not sure if they even have ceramic mugs for the coffee. They just put it in a paper takeaway cup no matter what. Whereas here you have to, unless it's just a dedicated takeaway only place, or if it's somewhere like Greg's, you pretty much have to usually ask for a takeaway cup if you want it, instead of a ceramic cup, which is kind of nice. Another kind of big difference in the coffee is instant coffee. In the US, instant coffee is a last resort. It is absolutely disgusting. That Folgers in your cup, oh, it's terrible. And that's the time when I will use sugar in my coffee if I have to have instant. Here, 90% of the time, especially if you're at someone's house, and a lot of the times if you're out at like a shop somewhere, if you ask for coffee, it will be instant coffee. And to be fair, in their defense, the instant coffee here, it's not good, but it's not nearly as terrible as the instant coffee in the States, which I found quite surprising. With that being said, whenever I'm out and about, I have fully adjusted to coffee shops not having coffee. I still make the joke. I always say that coffee shops here do not sell coffee, because in my mind, they don't. They sell espresso drinks. And I do like a latte every once in a while, but normally I just want a normal filter coffee. So my habits have definitely changed since I've come here. Most places will try to sell me an Americano. They say it's the same thing, but it's not. The big difference between coffee and espresso is the beans are different. Usually they're sourced from different areas, and they're also roasted differently and ground differently for espresso versus coffee. And an Americano, it's not bad, but it's just watered down espresso. It doesn't taste the same as coffee. I like hazelnut flavor, but I don't like the hazelnut syrups in a coffee because it makes it too sweet. And normal coffee shouldn't be sweet for me. So I use hazelnut coffee, which is kind of hard to find at a good price here. So I get mine on Amazon, it's not too bad. And that's what I make at home or when I'm out here on the van. If I'm at Greg's, a white coffee will suffice. And most of the time, if I am at an actual coffee shop, I'll just get a latte, and that's fine. Lattes are good. It's just not coffee. Now that I've been here for almost 6 years, I have adjusted quite well, I think. And so my coffee habits is usually there's a local coffee shop where I live, and I don't order when I go in. I just say my usual. He makes my usual, which for him is a hazelnut latte. Other than that, I usually end up going to Greg's or every once in a while Starbucks. And there's a couple other local coffee shops or coffee shops up in Glasgow that I'll go to sometimes. And I just usually get a latte when I'm there. If I'm at home or out in the van, of course, I will have my proper filter coffee. The weird thing for me is if my coffee is hot or warm, it should not be sweet. If my coffee is cold, I don't want it at all. And if my coffee is iced, then it should be sweet. Like a Frappuccino or something, which is back into the dessert territory. Now, before any of you accuse me of just whinging in the comments, I will say the coffee in general, like filter coffee and espresso drinks here, I feel like they're better quality, they're nicer. It's just when you move here, you have to adjust to the different terminology and the fact that your standard filter coffee that you normally get in the States is pretty much impossible to get here, at least on a regular basis. Even so the only place that I've ever seen, the only coffee shop that has a coffee maker is Starbucks. And even then, usually I ask when I'm there, but I would say at least 75% of the time, they don't have any made up and they won't make it for me because no one else orders it. I remember one time I actually went and I tried to get some filter coffee at Starbucks, and the barista had to get her manager to show her how to use the machine because she had never made filter coffee before. And they were so friendly and nice, they actually made some for me, which was great. But yeah, like you just have to adjust to not having the exact same things. Thank you so much for watching. I know it's a bit of a short one today, but life has been absolute insanity, and we'll see how it is over starting next week when the kids are on summer break. As long as I can make it through without melting in the heat or getting eaten alive by midges, although this particular spot isn't too bad. Anyways, that's it for today. Let me know in the comments how you like your coffee. And if you are also an immigrant living here in Scotland, how big of an adjustment was it for you when you moved here for your coffee drinking habits? Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.